Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where as promised I have burned out these Xenon engines. Oh boy, that took a while. And this is our final orbit that we got. It's definitely not as low as what the other orbit is going to be. There's no doubt about that, but we're going to come in fairly close over here. This is going to be in 11 days. The other orbit's going to be in 36, so we know that we should be fine to warp down over here. Now, I'm going to warp to about here for now. We're going to go in 6 days. I have no idea when these parts are going to start overheating or how this is going to go or whether we're going to survive this dip into the periapsis. This is going to be very interesting to find out. I have never gone this low over the sun before, but we're going to be going lower. So we're going to want to go to surface up at this point so that our sunshade is, you know, actually functioning in some meaningful way. But I imagine we're going to be losing these solar panels at the very least. Look at that energy flow. We are really close. No doubt about that. So at this point, we're going to want to warp to about here. That's about 2 days in the future. We're in physics warp right now. Let's not physics warp there. Let's warp to about here, about 3 days in the future, and then we'll just want to refresh this. Okay. I'm canceling the time warp. We're already seeing we're just flat overheating. So to be clear, I'm not surprised by this. I didn't think that this sunshade would actually work the way it would in real life, where this is, you know, absorbing all of the heat and this isn't actually ablative. But the way that this would work in reality is that this sun shield would be designed to prevent these overheats. Unfortunately, in Kerbal Space Program, we're just going to get the heat. So it looks like we're going to blow up on the way in, almost for sure. Let's warp in a bit. Hang on a moment. Our heat gauges mostly went away there. Now that's interesting. We're getting closer. Maybe the sun shield actually is working. That would be very interesting indeed. So you can see just how fast we're starting to go here. We're picking up more and more speed. We're still a long ways to the periapsis. Okay, so we're getting these heat gauges back now, and I think that's because we're drifting off of up. Let's see. This might actually be working the way it's supposed to, like, in reality. Maybe. And there we go again. Yeah, it must be that it's actually working. So one thing we might want to do, if we have this much energy flow, we might want to retract like this and see what happens. Retract 2 of our solar panels. The other 2 can keep going. We can only do 1 at a time. These are linked. I wish that they weren't, actually. I don't know of a way to unlink them. I'm sure you can, but I don't know it. So we're just going to tick forward here for a bit. Okay, we're on 1000x here, and I'm watching these heat gauges. So you can see here, we've drifted off of up. We go back into up. That's very interesting. This is going to be a little tedious to make our way over here. We're 2 days away from that right now. But now that we're back on up, I wish that we could physics warp this fast. If this is KSP2, we could. But this is not KSP2. That game, as far as I'm aware, is still fundamentally broken. So let's just bring this on in here. Look at that speed increase. This is why it takes so much delta V to do anything down this close to the sun. So we definitely want to reposition our sunshade here. We're now about 1 day away. I wonder if we're going to survive this. Surely not. We are going to get so much closer than we are right now. We're going to get, like, down to 1/4 of our current altitude. Surely we don't survive that. But we'll see. Okay, we got in space near. So we're going to grab our temperature scan, our atmospheric pressure scan, and our magnetometer report. Which we're definitely going to want to retract our magnetometer here. Cool. So we're going to grab the magnetometer boom. We're going to retract that boom. And we definitely want to transmit this data back while we can. So there's all of that in-space near data collected. Or some of it collected anyway. Cool. Apparently we can grab more, but I'm not sure if there's actually a point. I'm pretty sure there's not. So let's head forward at this point, now that we have that data. Ooh, that was maybe a little faster than I wanted to warp there. The sunshade, I think, is definitely doing something. I think that's very clear at this point. And so that's good to know. I'm very pleased about that. Oh, boy. Those filled up very quickly and then re-emptied. Hang on. I'm going to quick save here just in case something goes weird. Now they're draining. We're on 50x time warp. Okay. We're going to go down to still about a third of this altitude. I don't think I've ever gotten in space near the sun before. But look at this. 41.3 kilometers per second. That is speedy. No doubt about that. We're about 1 day away from our periapsis. Oh, okay. So that was all of our solar panels burning off. I can't say that I'm surprised about that. I'm a little surprised that these ones burned off at the same time, but I guess that just indicates that this heat shield isn't really doing what it's designed to do. There isn't really a sun shield sort of concept in KSP, at least in vanilla KSP, so there is that. I think for now, we're going to put our remote guidance unit into hibernation so that we can preserve as much electric charge as we can. And we'll just warp on in. So we're definitely seeing this heat building up. We should reorient here. We have only this amount of electric charge, right? And we do have our second mission that's going to hit the other side. We've got plenty of time for that. So we're going up to 1000x here. We're about 3 hours from our periapsis, but we absolutely need to reorient this thing. Although, to be honest, we shouldn't need to because all of this is in shadow. Now, if the heat shield were to burn up, that would be a problem. But there we go. We'll just reorient here. And we'll see how that goes. We might be fine for the moment. Yes. Okay. So we're continuing to tick forward here. We're going to 1000x. We'll need to reorient here. We can only go a little ways at a time. Maybe for the sake of time, we should turn on the prevent overheat. And then just go a little deeper and see if it all blows up. But I kind of want to keep doing it this way. I'm interested in seeing what the limits of this craft are. So we're continuing to head on in. We've got about 3 hours left to tick forward here. Cool. And we can see we're drifting off of the mark here. That's to be expected. I'm just going to continue burning here, or rather not burning, but warping at 100x time for the moment until we start to see heat gauges again. 100x time seems to be a relatively good, decent sweet spot at this time. But look at that speed. 58 kilometers per second, and we've still got a lot of time to fall towards this periapsis. Now we should definitely reorient here, I think. So I'm going to let this go down to 2 hours. There we go. And we'll reorient this. There we go. Just about back into position. Nice. So back up to 100x. 100x definitely seems to be the way to sit. It's not that slow, but it's not so fast that things are nearly uncontrollable. So that's good. 62 kilometers per second as of now. That's a lot. So I'm just going to continue sitting here until we're an hour away from the periapsis, or we start seeing heat gauges, whatever happens first. Things are definitely holding together pretty well, all things considered. Repositioning. I'm beginning to wonder if we're going to survive this. We may intentionally flip it over to surface and just blow it up after we get to the periapsis. But it would also be kind of interesting to keep this thing in orbit here as a relay satellite. If we don't have it loaded, I don't think it'll overheat and burn. In theory, maybe it would. Okay, I'm going to reorient at 30 minutes to periapsis, which is right now. We're not seeing any heat gauges. If I were to extend this, would we start to see them again? Oh, now we're seeing a heat shield heat gauge. Okay. If our heat shield goes, the whole thing is going to go. So that's exciting. Well, it went away. We're 28 minutes to the periapsis. I wonder if it went away because of the warp. I don't know. We'll find out. So we're now about 10 minutes to periapsis and peak heating for this thing. To be clear, the other one is going to get a lot closer. So I have a feeling that the other one is definitely not going to survive. Yeah, we're definitely seeing this heat gauge here. And does it go away if we warp? It does. That's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to warp us at 50x for the time being. And let's take this to about 30 seconds to the periapsis. Okay, right about here. So we'll position there. It seems like if we're at a bit of an angle, it's not a problem. So we could probably game this into staying alive. But I kind of want to see what happens if we were to physics... the heat gauge goes away on physics warp as well. Fascinating. This is the periapsis right here. Well, right here. So it's only going to get cooler from here. This is the lowest that we had the fuel for this one, but this is the higher of the two probes. The other probe will get lower, to be clear. I'm wondering if this is actually going to increase at all. I'm actually surprised by how well this went. I expected this thing to blow up at this altitude. But that is definitely a good sign. We can use this as a relay satellite. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to hop over to our other impactor relay. I don't want to set as target. There's no point. We're going to switch to that. And I don't know if that one's going to survive warping. I guess we'll find out. So we're going to align to the node here. This is, of course, an identical impactor. But this one has a lot of burn time remaining. A whole lot of burn time. And it's going to be burning at a more favorable time in the orbit. We're going to be getting low enough that the game thinks that we are within Kerbal. Although there isn't really such a thing as inside of Kerbal. We'll see how that goes. Kerbal has no atmosphere, right? That'd be awkward if it had an atmosphere. That would definitely be within the quote-unquote atmosphere. So it's going to be, as you can see, a lot lower than this one is. I do not expect this guy to survive. So let's see if we warp here, whether this blinks out of existence or not. Well, it survived the trip out. Okay. We'll see if it survives the trip in. So we're warping on over. It's going to take a bit to reach the apoapsis here. It's going to be moving quite slowly, in theory. I mean, still 9,000 meters per second. But now it's starting to accelerate, and it's just going to go very quickly. So it might be an interesting relay satellite at this point. We've gotten good data out of it. And yeah, we're bouncing our signal through it right now. Or partially, anyway. Cool. The real question is it going to survive this circuit? If it does, it's probably just going to survive. Yeah, looks okay. Beautiful. Yeah, I think it doesn't simulate the heating if we don't have it loaded. As long as the sunshade is pointing towards the sun, it seems to survive that nicely. So we're going to start this burn in about 40 seconds. This is going to be an impressively long burn. 3 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm definitely not going to make you sit through that. So we're going to execute this burn shortly here. 30 seconds to go. 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay, I didn't actually activate the engines. There we go. Engines are activated, and we are burning. So at this point, I'm going to cut out this particular burn. It's going to be a very, very lengthy one. And we are going to be back sometime after the burn has ended and before we arrive at the sun. I'm not sure exactly when, because my plan is to just walk away. I will see you guys in just a bit. For you. For me, it'll be in a while. In a while indeed. Okay. It has been a while. But here we are, almost done with this burn. We've got about 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Let's take a look at our trajectory here. Yeah, we're not quite at our target trajectory, but we're going to get pretty close. Absolutely great. So we've got about 2 minutes left in this burn. Of course, that's about 30 seconds at 4x physics warp. So that's looking great. We're just going to bring this thing on in, and we're going to impact it, quote unquote, as best we can. So we've got actually only about 50 meters per second left here, right? We can see we've got 50 seconds of burn time at this point. 40 seconds. 30. 20. 10. And we're out. Okay, so we have no additional fuel remaining. So, yeah, we're going to be pretty deep in the corona there. No doubt about that. I don't think this vehicle is going to be surviving. So we're going to head over to the up trajectory. And we'll position ourselves here. I would like, at this point, to put us into hibernation. I think that that is definitely a smart thing to do. I'm going to, as before, retract one of these guys. There we go. And let's warp in. We know we were reasonably safe-ish for a while. We're going to be going in on this side? Yes. So we're going to warp in about 2 weeks here, but before we do, in case something really weird happens, I'm going to quick save. I don't know that that quick save occurred. There we go. Now let's warp in about 2 weeks. And we'll see what ends up happening. So we've got about 10 days left in this warp. Cool. So I guess we have this ComSat here. It just didn't have enough fuel to get quite as low as I would have liked. That's for sure. But it definitely got low enough. I mean, realistically, we could just burn this thing up by not having it... Actually, eventually it would burn up, right? Oh boy. Okay. We definitely need to get this guy turned. So we're going to grab our data here from In Space Near. There we go. We're about 1 day to periapsis here. We're definitely already cruising. And I want to get this data transmitted. Cool. So we'll just get into position here. And what I was saying about this definitely burning up is that eventually it's going to run out of power. So it won't be able to continue to keep its sunshade pointing towards the sun. It lost its solar panels, right? So that's absolutely fine. We're going to go in at about... Yeah, those are definitely draining now that we've got our sun shield facing the correct direction. Cool. We're going to warp in for now at about 100x, but this is still a day away. I'm going to go up to 1000x. Ooh, okay. We're going to need... We really can't get to 1000x, it seems like. Okay. 100x is where we're going to have to sit. I think that's very clear at this point. So we're going to go up to 100x. That seems to be the sweet spot here. And we'll just head on in for a little while here. I mean, at 100x, we are getting through a little over a minute per second here. So that's not too bad. That means we're like 5 minutes from our periapsis. Cool. Now we're definitely going to lose our solar panels at some point here. Wow, look at that energy flow. That is insane. I can't imagine the amount of heat that would be on these photovoltaic panels in reality. That would be just crazy. Absolute insanity right there. So we can see we're drifting off of the up direction, which is, of course, not exactly what we want. For the moment, I'm going to keep warping us forward, and we'll correct our heading at 4 hours. And I think we'll just correct it at 1 hour. Like 1 hour intervals. I think that'll be absolutely fine. So we'll pull back here, and we'll get our sun shield angled correctly. Man, look at that. Absolute insanity. And we're still not angled exactly the way we want to be. But yeah, the power flow here is just absolute craziness. Okay, so we're going to warp in again here at about 100. Oh, no. I wanted 100x, not 1000x. Cool. At 1000x, this whole thing is going to blow up, it seems. So that's, you know, slightly awkward. So we're going to go in here until about 3 hours until periapsis. We are about halfway there. Actually, we might be able to go to 2 hours. We'll see if that ends up working. Yeah, we're on limited probe control here because we're in hibernation. That's to not use up our electric charge. But honestly, it's fine. Yeah, so far so good. It seems to just be 1000x that this struggles with. So let's get this thing burned up here. We're about 2 hours, well, 2.5 hours away from periapsis, and I really don't think this thing's going to survive. So we're seeing this heat gauge here. I'm hoping to take this to 2 hours. It's very, very hot here. There's no doubt about that. We're really close to the sun. We are about at the periapsis of the previous one. Okay, so there goes that solar panel. This solar panel is still okay for now. Okay, there it goes. We still have these 2 solar panels. If we want to be clever, what we do is we keep these retracted, and we can just retract these for now. We keep these retracted when we're in close like this, and then we would, when we come out on this side, we would just fill our battery back up. Would be the way that would work. I think it's really to do with the warping, though, why we lost our solar panels previously. I was trying to be too aggressive on the warp. So for now, we're just going to head on in. We are still about 1 hour and 45 minutes away from the periapsis here, and you can see just how low resolution the sun texture is. It's almost like it wasn't intended to be seen from this close or something. Huh. To be clear, I don't think this probe is going to survive. I really, really don't. So we're just going to move on in here until 1 hour, and then we'll correct our angling here. Ooh, wow. Look at that heat shield glow. We are still 1 hour from periapsis. There's definitely some weirdness with heat and warping. There's no doubt about that. But if this heat shield goes, the rest of this will go incredibly fast. Okay. If we warp forward, yeah, you can see that that heat immediately goes away. It's very strange, but I have a feeling when we come out of this warp, this might explode. Which is kind of the goal. Kind of. Now, to be clear, there's no atmosphere here, and there's no surface to collide with either. You can just get closer and closer and closer until you burn up, right? That's the way that this ends up working. So, yep, we came out of warp, and kaboom. I am deeply unsurprised by that. So this is all to do with the warp, right? So we're going to hop back over to the Space Center. This was a catastrophic success, not a catastrophic failure. We're going to go to the tracking station because I want to hop over to our other vehicle and see how it's doing on power at this point. Its power will eventually run out, and I'm not sure if it has yet. So that is, yeah, this is the launcher here, which we could really terminate this. And then we've got the impactor itself here. How are we doing for electric charge? 945 out of 1015. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, for purposes of simulating how this would work in reality, because in reality, hibernation is not going to, it's a low power mode, right? It's not a no power mode. So we would take this off of hibernation, and you can see here, we're going to be draining some decent amounts of power. So from here, all we would do is we would go into surface up. We'd warp around to that, and we're going to run out of power eventually, and we'll just warp until that happens. And then this thing will burn up, because we won't be able to point the sunshade towards the sun. So you can see here just how fast our power is going down. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. And that's because we took it out of hibernation, but that was a deliberate choice here. Okay, there we go. So now you can see our sunshade is facing exactly the wrong direction. If we wanted to be clever, we would have turned this around first, but I kind of don't. I kind of want to bring this guy right on in and let it burn. Okay. So we're still about 4 hours away here. But yeah, you can see those heat gauges popping up there. And we're getting absolutely baked right now. Completely roasted. There's some major heat going on here. But it's going to get a lot more. We see those bars going up as we're warping. There's definitely weirdness with warping in KSP. 100x seems to be the sweet spot there. But we're picking up a lot of heat. We're still 2 hours from the periapsis, and we're going to go kaboom here pretty soon. We're just going to go in at 100x here for the moment. That really does seem to be where it runs coolest. Things heat up a lot at 1000x. At 1x, we seem to be kind of okay. Okay. I just want to know if this thing's going to burn up or not without the sun shield facing the sun. I don't know if this actually does anything, to be clear. I have no idea. We'll find out, I guess. If we blow up here, then we know it does something. If it doesn't blow up here, then it's kind of indeterminate. We could probably force it to blow up with warping, though. Okay, so we're currently 15 minutes away from our periapsis. 10 minutes. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that heat immediately. Kaboom. So we baked off our antenna. Are we going to have anything else baking off here? There should be a lot of heat building up right now. I'm physics warping here. Interesting. Very interesting, actually. So what happens if we go through on... Yeah, there we go. If we go to 1000x time warp, then everything except the sun shield burns off. Cool. Which is exactly what we wanted to have happen. So we're going to go back to the Space Center. These are... Like, the contract termed these as impactors, right? But they're not exactly impactors. There's no surface of the sun to impact. They were always just going to burn up on the way in. And I feel like we achieved that reasonably well. So I'm going to call that contract complete. That was a hard difficulty contract outside of the sphere of influence of Kerbin. So we get ourselves 1 million from that. So that would put us up to 2.8. There we go. Fantastic. And let's hop into the tracking station and let's detrack one of the, well, just the heat shield there. We don't need to keep that heat shield tracked. So there we go. That'll probably burn up if we were to warp around itself. it probably would burn up. But we'll terminate that. That's absolutely fine. I've also got a little bit of debris here I should go through and clean up sometime. But for now, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we'll see about getting ourselves another contract going. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Shadow Wolf, and Lohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kentogan, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.